What's up, YouTube? We're back at it again with some more Chaos Zero Nightmare nonsense. Today we are going to take a quick peek at Heidemarie and her partner, Sylvia. As a new limited agent, just like Serenial, she is only available during the half anniversary. With a couple of days left, I figured now is probably a really good time to go over what she does, who she is, and kind of give you a rundown as far as how she works. Obviously, there are other people that have been putting out content recently about how she's kind of busted and she's got a really unique build, and certain characters were originally thought to be like, this is the partner you put them with, and this is the deck you build, and that kind of nonsense. Let's go over her kit. Obviously, some of the stuff that we've talked about before is pretty simplistic, but obviously we have her standard deck, which is sword flash ×2, sword barrier ×1. So we have 2 attacks and a shield. Our primary card is Sword Rain, which is a linked card that does 88% damage ×2, and if drawn, creates as an attunement ability, which basically says when this card is drawn, it activates the attunement effect, will create a copy of Effulgent Blade. Effulgent Blade is a linked card that is 1 cost that does 132% damage. If it is discarded, it does 132% extra attack to a random enemy and does not move to the draw pile on shuffle, which means it will always stay in the discard once it has been discarded. Our 4 Epiphany cards are Hero to All, which is a Quietus card. If you remember Diana also uses the Quietus mechanic. Quietus basically says that when this card is discarded, you activate the card instead, and then it cannot be moved from the used card pile on that turn that it was used, which means it stays exiled for a turn and then comes back into the graveyard after that next turn has ended. Hero to All will allow you to draw 3 cards and then apply linked to all of those cards for that turn. Our next card is Thread of Light. It is a linked card that does 132% damage plus an additional 120% damage for each linked card currently in hand. Our next card is Effulgent Expansion. It is a 2-cost card that has the Quietus keyword that utilizes the ability to create 2 additional Effulgent Blades, as well as adding an additional 50% damage to all Effulgent Blades for the entire turn. This is not just linked to the cards currently in hand, it is for all Effulgent Blades in hand, in discard, so on and so forth. And of course, her final card is Effulgent Compression, Effulgent Release. Effulgent Compression is a unique linked retrieve 3 card that says when it is moved to the graveyard, it will do a stack of Effulgent Light, which is a 3 stacking ability that will then, once all 3 stacks are added, change Effulgent Compression into Effulgent Release. Effulgent Release is a 0-cost attack and is a unique card that says 550% damage and then exhaust all Effulgent Blades in the graveyard and then do an additional 100% damage for each exhausted, and then at the end of the turn you will change the card from Effulgent Release and flip it back over to Effulgent Compression. Looking at the Epiphanies, Sword Rain has the standard 5. Sword Rain 1 changes it from I think it just starts off as a linked, right? So we start off from linked and we gain the Quietus keyword, and instead of creating 1 Effulgent Blade, it creates 2. Sword Rain 2 is a 2-cost card that changes everything from linked to haste. Does 198% damage, and for you will add 1 hit each for each Effulgent Blade in the hand, and then on an attunement will create 1 Effulgent Blade. Sword Rain 3 is allowing you to activate Effulgent Blade 5 times from the graveyard against the target as extra attack. So basically what it does is it takes 5 copies of Effulgent Blade, up to 5 copies in the graveyard, and smack it whatever you target with 5 times, up to 5 times, I should say. Sword Rain is a 1-cost. Sword Rain 4 is a 1-cost card that does not have any keywords and creates 2 Effulgent Blades and then applies Retrieve. And then the final Sword Rain 5 is a 3-cost card that has the keywords of Exhaust, Finale, Retain, and Unique. It does 550% damage to all enemies, and if Effulgent Release is in hand, you will exhaust it and add 100% damage to this card for each Effulgent Blade in the graveyard. Hero to All has the 5 epiphanies of Hero to All 1 being Linked and Quietus. Draw 3, apply Linked to those cards. So we change it from being just a Link to a Linked and Quietus card. Hero to All 2 is a Quietus that will allow you to draw 3 and apply Linked to all 1 cost or lower cards in hand for the turn. Hero to All 3 is a 0 cost card that changes the keyword to Haste. It draws 1 card and then applies Linked to all Quietus cards in hand for the turn. Hero to All 4 is an Exhaust 2 keyword with select 1 card from either draw pile or discard pile, and then apply a link to that card and move it into your hand. And the final is a 1 cost Hero to All that has Haste, draws 2 attack cards of this unit, and then applies Linked to all attack cards in hand for this turn. Next up, we have Thread of Light. Thread of Light Epiphanies are as follows. Thread of Light 1 is boosted damage overall. So we go from a base 150, 100 to 198, 180. Thread of Light 2 is a 2 cost with Linked and Haste. It does 330% damage, and if 3 or more cards are linked and are in your hand, you will triple the damage of Thread of Light. Thread of Light 3 is a 1 cost with Linked and Quietus, doing a reduced amount of damage down to 110. And if the card is in hand or graveyard, you will do an additional 80% damage to all linked cards. Thread of Light 4 is a 3-cost card with Linked and Exhaust that activates all linked cards in hand without discarding them, so you can actually double up on your linked cards, which is actually really nice. And of course, the last is a 2-cost with Linked and Unique that says when used manually, it does 385% damage twice. And when it is discarded, it does 330% damage to all enemies. So this is basically like a doubled boosted version of Thread of Light and Thread of Light E1. Final card with Epiphanies is Effulgent Expansion. Effulgent Expansion 1 is Linked and Quietus, creating 2 Effulgent Blades and having an increased amount of damage to 70% to all Effulgent Blades for 1 turn. Effulgent Expansion 2 is a Quietus card with a create 2 Effulgent Blades. Does 200% damage to the next 2 Effulgent Blades used. Number 3 is a linked version of the card that creates an Effulgent Blade for each linked card in hand. Effulgent Expansion 4 is Linked and Quietus and creates 6 Effulgent Blades in the discard pile. And number 5 is a Quietus and Unique card that states at the start of the turn you create 2 blades, and then you gain a 50% damage to all Effulgent Blades. Now, the interesting thing about this one is that it is not specifically for 1 turn. It is a flat 50% upgrade for the remainder of the battle. Now, of course, because it is unique, it is only capable of having 1, which means this is not something that can be easily stacked, but in the overall, not terrible because you're constantly creating copies of Effulgent Blade every turn. Heidemarie's partner is Sylvia, her secretary. She is a ranger partner that allows you to increase the assigned combatant's attack by 18% each time the assigned combatant's linked cards are used manually or discarded. You'll gain 1 stack of Zephyr. Whenever Zephyr reaches 3 stacks, she will gain 25% critical damage. Zephyr is also a stacking damage to the assigned combatant's passion attack, maximum 3 stacks. So you get a flat damage amount boost as well as a 25% critical damage boost. Her active ability is a 2-cost ego skill that says select up to 2 cards in hand and apply linked. If a selected card is the assigned combatant's linked cards, 10% additional critical damage to the assigned combatant for each such card instead. Not terrible. Super interesting concept, basically grabbing cards of hers to move them into hand, linking them together when they normally may not already be linked, or giving you the ability to link other combatants' cards that maybe have Quietus attached to them, like Diana, and being able to have all of those cards go off and doing additional damage kind of in the back line. Sylvia is a really strong partner and is probably the best partner pick for Heidemarie. Knowing that they are both limited means that grabbing them both is still going to be very important. If you have not been able to actually roll for Sylvia and you did not get a chance to get her obvious secondary choices, are going to be Rosaria and Daisy. Rosaria is definitely going to end up being one of the top picks regardless, just because of her damage boosts, getting the ability to have upgrade or skill cards, gaining morale, as well as being able to draw upgrades. And if there are no upgradable draws, you simply just draw a card regardless. So there is no way to not just get a card. That being said, as far as memory fragments are concerned, she is going to be using a 4-2 build with the Prelude to a Hero set, as well as the Executioner's Tool. This gives her a boost of critical damage, as well as the 4 set of Prelude to a Hero, which is when a Passion or Void attribute attack card of this unit is discarded, they gain 15% critical chance for 1 turn, maximum 15%, maximum 2 stacks. Having the ability to get into it, her big base items obviously are going to give you things like she wants attack, she wants crit chance, she wants crit damage. She also wants passion damage, obviously, on her number 5 piece. She also wants extra damage because all of the extra attacks that she gets from Effulgent Swords are going to be extra boost. As well as a quick look at her ego manifestations here. Her E1 gives her the ability to do 200% damage to her Effulgent Release card, which, if you remember, is her boosted 3-turn kill card. And it also, the added damage for each Effulgent Blade in the graveyard becomes 120%. So we go up to 770 and 120. Her E2 says at the start of battle, you move the Effulgent Compression card into your hands, no matter from where it's at. At the start of the turn, you will gain 5 stacks, of Crimson Blade. Crimson Blade states that when a linked card is used manually or discarded, you will gain 120% extra attack to the enemy with the highest HP, and when activated, you will decrease the stacks of Crimson Blade by 1, and you can have a maximum of 8 stacks. E3 is a 200% damage boost to Elysium of Blades, which is her ego, and it changes the 80% damage max 20 cards to 100% max 30 cards, and the damage amount for each card discarded this battle. So it is a huge boost to her ego skill. Absolutely worth getting to E3. E4 is when manually using or discarding Heidemarie's linked cards, you will gain a stack of Effulgent Chain. Effulgent Chain says that it gives you a 5% damage to all Heidemarie cards, and you can have 10 stacks. E4 is really strong. No reason not to. E5 is her base stat upgrade, and E6 is created Effulgent Blade cards to all attributes. And each time Crimson Blade is activated, it is a 40% damage increase to Crimson Blade to a maximum of 480%. The reason why this is very important is instead of her cards just being passion cards, her Effulgent Blade now copy for all attributes, which means she's doing damage across the board. When a lot of people were theory crafting this character, a lot of people said E6, 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 E6. Just burn it out, spend all your points, get her as much as you can, and try to get her to E6. While I understand why, I'm going to give you 2 counterpoints to that. Getting her to at least E2 is incredibly important because of the Effulgent Compression starting in hand, as well as gaining 5 stacks of Crimson Blade every turn to a maximum of 8. Having the ability to do the additional extra attack with Heidemarie, especially considering the fact that extra attack is kind of her bread and butter, is incredibly important. The other thing that I would like to point out that I also see as part of the thing here is getting her to E4 is also incredibly important as well, because guess what? She's just doing flat additional damage, and she can do an additional 25% base damage every time you discard or use a linked card. So she just ramps up in damage constantly. And if you're using a cycle deck like Cassius, she go ham. She gonna be good. So she actually is a 3-break character, where most are usually going to be 2, which is usually 2/6. She's a 3-break. You want to get her to 2, you definitely want to get her to 4, you probably want to get her to 6. If you're already there, good job. If not, yeah, she definitely wanted to be at any of those breakpoints. So being E2 is really strong, E4 is really strong, E6 is really strong. Any of those 3 breakpoints are probably where you wanted to put her.
Hi, Heidemarie desu yo.
In a baseline, this is the deck that I put together for her, mostly just because I think it's kind of funny. It's also much more interesting when I get a chance to kind of just do a baseline with her. So we've got 3 copies of Sword Rain that have the create 2 effulgent blades and apply retrieve. A hero to all that draws 3 and applies link to all of those cards, giving it the linked and quietus, which means it will always work no matter what. The thread of light that is linked and haste, that gives you the 3 or more linked cards, tripling the damage. And the effulgent expansion that allows you to always create 2 effulgent blades at the start of every turn, and giving a flat 50% increased damage amount to all effulgent blades in the deck. I did also happen to pick up a Persona of Luster. I'm not a big fan of everything that I got on it. I would have rather had the plus 30% damage for each Lux engraving twice, but unfortunately that didn't happen. It's also one of the generic ones because the one that I really wanted never showed up. Even the rerolls were just like denying me. So I ended up getting a 250% damage to Mark, which is also an extra attacks, which she likes doing anyway. Part of the reason I put this together was because I wanted to make a meme bullet deck with her, Selena, and Renoa, because I thought it would be hilarious. You could also probably put Diana together with this deck as well, and it would probably do pretty decent. We were able to get the extra, the second method. We picked up a reinforced combat suit that says if a card of this unit was discarded, it does 100% damage amount to the next attack card of that unit that's manually used once per turn. And of course, we've got Amorphous Cube doing a flat 25% increased damage. There's obviously other builds that kind of work out. I've also got another build that I'm kind of trying to work together that allows you to simply just make multiple copies of Effulgent Blade in the graveyard and then just threading the needle with Effulgent Compression into Effulgent Release and just burning out all 10 copies in one attack. It's pretty great. It does a lot of just single target damage. But all in all, that's Heidemarie. I feel like
Heidemarie desu yo.
she's got a really interesting kit. Having Linked and Quietus be part of her mechanics alongside characters like Diana, Renoa, any of the bullet characters, really. I've seen a lot of crazy stuff with Luke. I've seen some interesting stuff with Cassius as the support. His card cycling and quest giving Heidemarie the ability to cycle through and get more copies of Effulgent Blade in the graveyard, and then being able to get Effulgent Release and Compression to pop literally every turn, in some cases multiple times a turn, is hilarious to watch. So yeah, but beyond that, that's pretty much my take. She's a very solid limited character. She's probably one of the best rangers in the game right now. And I'm saying that as a person who absolutely mained Selena all the way through the end of season 1. She's phenomenal. I think she does a lot of really good work. Obviously, I don't have any kind of an optimization for her, but I will obviously say that she just wants to hit, and she wants to hit often. And so yeah, getting a chance to partner her with other characters that allow her to do that, definitely the way to go. Anyway, that's Heidemarie. I hope you guys enjoy her as a character. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, what you think about Heidemarie, maybe a good team that you've been using with Heidemarie. And until the next time, bye-bye.